CEO's dark secret: he never smiled for 20 years. Until she sang at midnight. The boardroom was achingly silent, the fluorescent lights flickering above, casting an eerie glow on the faces turned toward Miles Harrington, CEO of Harrington Industries. For 2 long decades, he had been a ghost in his own life, a titan of business with a reputation so cold it could freeze fire. The murmurs of employees filled the air, an unsettling buzz like bees before a storm. "Did you hear?" someone whispered. "He hasn't smiled in 20 years. In the midst of corporate power struggles and high-stakes deals, an inexplicable legend persisted: the moment Miles smiled again, something would change for better or worse. Each day dawned with the same dread. Would today be the day? The way he scowled constantly felt like nails on a chalkboard, keeping everyone on edge. They all sensed it, even the walls seemed to hold their breath, waiting for a spark of humanity to light the darkness. No one had ever seen him in a good mood. His suit was always pristine, sharply pressed, yet his demeanor felt suffocating, wrapped in an invisible shroud of despair. His dark hair framed a face marked by sharp angles and a permanent frown that could turn steel to glass. It was as if he had stolen smiles from the world, never to return them. He was a man whose laughter was a distant memory, lost in the forgotten echoes of the past, but then came Sophia, a young intern with a voice that could break the chains of silence. She wandered into the office building one fateful evening, a bundle of nerves and unpolished talent. That night, with the world cloaked in night and loneliness, she squared her shoulders and decided to practice her passion singing. Her sweet notes floated through the hallways, a haunting melody that climbed the walls and slipped beneath doors. The moment she began, the air shifted. The hushed whispers of the office turned into wide-eyed astonishment. Employees peeked out from their cubicles, driven by curiosity. And then, that unmistakable stillness fell over Miles Harrington. His jaw clenched, but for the first time in forever, his brow furrowed not with anger but intrigue. Something inside him began to stir. "Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect." As Sophia's voice continued to rise and fall, a flicker of emotion crossed Miles's face. His tightly wound persona began to loosen, the tension in his chest easing for the first time in years. Spectators were captivated, as if drawn into a spell. But just as they thought they could glimpse the man behind the mask, something unexpected happened. With a final, lingering note, Sophia finished her song. Silence fell. And then Miles took a deep breath, as if he were about to break a 20-year vow. The room held its breath, waiting for that long-lost smile to crack through the ice. But instead, something else emerged, something darker, hidden just beneath the surface. A secret that would change everything. What was it that lurked behind the façade, waiting to be unleashed? The air was electric, thick with uncertainty and an unsettling tension that felt heavier than the expansive boardroom itself. Miles Harrington's sharp features remained unchanged, carved in stone, but that barely contained flicker of something deep within made employees question everything they thought they knew about their enigmatic leader. "Is he going to smile?" someone quietly asked in disbelief, the whisper ricocheting off the walls like an unmistakable pitch of hope amid a storm. But Miles opened his mouth, and the silence stretched. The weight of the moment felt insurmountable, as if time had come to a standstill to witness the potential unraveling of 2 decades of darkness. Then, with a voice that was both gravel and silk, he spoke. "You should not have been here." The words were a harsh slap, shocking everyone back into reality. A chill raced through the crowd as they exchanged glances, uncertainty giving birth to dread. Was it anger? Fear? Or perhaps something deeper, buried beneath the years of isolation. Sophia stood rooted in place, her heart pounding in her chest. The exhilaration that had filled her moments ago faded, replaced by the gnawing feeling of standing in the presence of a storm. I just wanted to share my passion," she faltered, her voice barely rising above a whisper, each word dripping with a vulnerability she was not prepared to show. "I do not care for your passions," Miles snapped, his voice echoing, filling the boardroom with palpable intensity. But behind those words, a flicker of something. Was it remorse? Danced in his dark eyes, leaving the onlookers utterly lost in disbelief. Suddenly, a ripple of murmurs erupted, surprise washing over the employees like a tidal wave. For 20 years, the man they feared, revered, and avoided had provided an unwavering façade. But now they witnessed the cracks forming. What was simmering beneath that relentless exterior? As Miles turned, the heaviness in the room shifted. Sophia felt the weight of everyone's gaze upon her. The silence was deafening, broken only by the sound of her trembling hands brushing against each other, summoning the remnants of her courage. "You may not care for the art, but it holds power, it can transform." His expression hardened, yet something danced in his eyes again. It was anger, yes, but also the glimmer of an echo, a shadow of a past perhaps filled with music, laughter, and light, a past Miles had buried, almost ruthlessly. Before he could reply, a loud thud reverberated through the office, drawing all attention away. "What was that?" a voice gasped, piercing the thick tension. Everyone spun around toward the source. One of the boardroom windows had shattered, sending shards of glass scattering across the carpet. Chaos erupted as panic spread through the room. Employees scrambled for cover, their faces contorted with confusion and fear. Miles's deep voice cut through the cacophony, commanding order. "Everyone stay down." Yet, even as he spoke, the unease began to creep in again. The event felt posturing, as if orchestrated to reflect the tumult raging inside him. Sophia's heart raced wildly as she crouched, glancing up to see Miles's rigid frame still looming, yet now shrouded in an even more sinister cloak of uncertainty. Had his years of solitude bred not only darkness but something malignant? What was the unseen enemy that had surged toward the corporate fortress the moment he dared to feel even a flicker of emotion? And in that moment of chaos, as if the world itself demanded awakening, a shadowy figure slipped discreetly from the back of the boardroom, disappearing into the maze of cubicles. Who was there? What secret does this figure hold? The dread curling in Sophia's stomach intensified, leaving her with a haunting realization that their lives were tipping into uncharted waters. The melody of hope was abruptly drowned by the sinister undertones of fear. A specter of danger loomed, tangled within the web of Miles's forgotten past. What lay hidden in the wreckage, and who would emerge from the chaos? The room was a cacophony of frantic whispers and hurried breaths, the smattering of glass underfoot crunching like brittle bones. Sophia's heart hammered in her chest as she scanned the chaos unfolding before her. Employees ducked for cover, their expressions twisted with fear, desperation painted on each face. Miles stood still, a granite figure amidst the storm. His eyes darted toward the shattered window, and for a fleeting moment, the rigid tension in his shoulders eased. Sophia saw it, the flicker of vulnerability. What had he seen in that instant? Was there an enemy lurking just beyond the glass, hidden from their view? "Stay down." Miles's voice boomed again, but there was a trembling note laced in his command, a crack under the pressure. The hard edges of his persona blurred, revealing the fear that was gripping not just his employees, but him as well. A truth that had long been buried beneath layers of power and control was now threatening to burst forth. Sophia's instincts kicked in. She crouched low, crawling toward the broken glass, drawn by some unseen pull. The shattered pieces glittered like tiny stars scattered on the floor, and in that chaos, a thought struck like a thunderbolt. Who had done this? Who was the elusive shadow that had slipped past her unnoticed? "Is anyone hurt?" she called, her voice rising over the din. But even as she spoke, a part of her spun with dread. Was this act mere coincidence, or was it directed? The artistic pulse that had ignited her passion was now entwining itself with the raw fear surrounding her. Amid the chaos, the murmurs began to rise again, people speculating, their imaginations igniting wild theories. It must be a break-in. Was that on purpose? How could someone? Sophia locked eyes with Miles, catching a glimpse of something raw and primal, an unfurling wave of rage and desolation that pulsed beneath the surface. Everyone! He shouted, cutting through the panic, his voice sharp like the shards at their feet. Gather in the lobby, now. But before a mass exodus could begin, the shadowy figure that had now lurked at the fringes revealed itself. It emerged from the back of the room, a familiar face shrouded in mystery, someone they all thought was gone. Casey, a former employee, had left years ago under a cloud of secrecy. Why was she back now? Sophia's breath caught as Casey's eyes swept the room, landing on Miles with a piercing intensity that sent shivers down Sophia's spine. There was something electric in that gaze, an unsaid bond, a legacy of unwelcome memories that seemed to echo through the air. What did she know? What darkness had she come to deliver? Miles! Casey's voice rang out, a soft tremor betraying her bravado. You need to listen to me. With those words, an unsettling hush fell over the room. The adrenaline that had been coursing through Sophia's veins came to an abrupt halt. The weight of suspicion and curiosity collided, leaving everyone frozen, waiting with bated breath, desperate to piece together the puzzle. Miles's expression flickered, caught in a dance between resolve and regret. What history tied him to Casey? What danger lurked in the truths she was bound to unveil? Each second stretched like an eternity, tension crackling in the air as Miles's icy demeanor began to melt under an onslaught of memories threatening to break him. In that moment, Sophia understood the gravity of the situation. This was no longer just about shattered glass or whispered fears. Something darker loomed on the horizon, and it was tangled with the past that Miles had fought so hard to leave behind. As Casey stepped further into the room, the weight of her presence was unmistakable, a harbinger of secrets waiting to be unmasked. What truth awaited in the shadows, and how would it finally unravel the stories they had all been living? The silence weighed heavily, suffocating. Casey's eyes pierced the room, catching everyone off guard like a flash of lightning in a storm. What thoughts pulsated behind that familiar face? Miles's jaw clenched tight, muscles twitching, betraying his struggle. The moment hung suspended, charged with unknown potential. Suddenly, Casey took a step forward, her voice low but insistent. I didn't come here to scare anyone, but you need to understand it's worse than you think. We're all in danger. A collective shiver raced through the crowd, each person exchanging nervous glances. Sophia could feel their anxiety flare, her own heart thudded violently against her ribs. What did she mean? Whom were they in danger from? That single statement had unveiled the wildest speculation. What happened? Miles demanded, breaking his silence with an edge that hardly resembled his usual authority. He was losing his grip, and they all sensed it. Casey shook her head, the sheer weight of memory dragging her down. There are things buried in this company, Miles. Secrets that can't stay hidden any longer. Every word felt like a hammer striking stone, each one heavy with consequence. People behind Sophia edged closer, craning their necks to catch even a whisper of the unfolding drama. Tension crackled, a taut cord pulled as tight as possible before snapping. Like the accident? Someone muttered from the back, a voice trembling on the brink of revelation, the air thick with dread. Casey's face paled. Yes, but it's more than that. What you think you know? She paused, a steely determination flashing across her features. It's just the tip of the iceberg. Sophia's mind raced. The accident rumored to have led not just to broken bones but to something far heavier, something unspeakable that had tainted the very foundation of their workplace. Everyone had heard whispers, but no one had dared to confront them, just as they feared the shadows dancing at the edge of perception. Miles shifted, scanning the room as if searching for a way to regain control. We need to get everyone to safety, he said, trying to usher them toward the lobby. But Casey's next words halted him in his tracks. No. You must listen to me first. Eyes bored into her, fear-twisting faces. You were meant to stay away, she continued, desperation creeping into her voice. They won't stop until they get what they want, and you, Miles, are the key. Miles, Sophia whispered, her throat dry as sandpaper. Suddenly, her instincts begged for clarity. What if the pieces of this mystery were locked in the storm between him and Casey? Casey, what are we talking about? He pressed, the frustration boiling beneath his cool exterior. The look in Casey's eyes hardened. The darkness that's in this building, it doesn't just stay here. It follows. As she spoke, a distant roar echoed outside, drowning her words in ominous reverberation. Something was quickly amassing, gathering force as shadows fled from the corners of their minds. Panic swelled, the employees instinctively took a step back, then the lights flickered, a tremor releasing a cloud of uncertainty, and suddenly the full title of terror presented itself. A figure appeared in the dim light outside, blocking any hope of escape. Who is that? Someone gasped. Sophia's pulse quickened, eyes locked on the shadowy silhouette silhouetted against the fading dusk. That ominous presence seemed to know the secrets they feared, the very ones now threatening to erupt with devastating force. Miles! Sophia cried, the weight of dread crashing like waves against the shore. We need to do something now. But the question hung heavy, what could they do? Was there a way to confront the haunted past that was hunting them down? As the figure stepped out of the shadows and into the flickering remnants of light, the truth that had loomed over them all surfaced. But could they survive the revelation, or would it consume them whole? A chilling realization crept in, this was only the beginning. What awaited them was something deeper than the glass they had shattered, more terrifying than the memories they had buried. One thing was certain, the darkness was coming for them all, with claws poised to claw their way into their lives, and soon, they would each have to decide what price they were willing to pay for the truth. The figure stepped closer, revealing a gaunt face framed by wild hair. It was hard to tell if the light flickering overhead was just catching the weariness etched in the man's features or if it was emphasizing the deep shadows lurking there. Miles took a step back instinctively, every muscle in his body screaming to flee, yet he stood firm for those looking to him for guidance. Who are you? He asked, voice trembling. The room felt smaller, the panic palpable, and Sophia's heart raced, clenching like a vice. I'm the one you've been searching for, the man rasped, his voice a gravelly echo of hopelessness. The one who knows the truth behind the accident. The crowd stirred, murmurs rippling through the mass. Each whispered sentence raised the tension in the air, a live wire thrumming with fear. People huddled closer, trying to absorb the weight of this revelation while avoiding the stranger's piercing gaze. What truth? What accident? They all felt a desperate thirst for answers, and yet terror gripped them tight. Tell us! Came an impatient shout from the back. A young intern, eyes wide with curiosity and dread. Please! The stranger's gaze shifted, locking onto Miles. It doesn't matter who I am, he replied. What matters is how the past intertwines with your present, Miles. You've made choices that others can't let go of. Choices that have put you all in danger. Miles took a deep breath, grounding himself. Forget the past. We have to focus on the here and now. We need a plan. But as he spoke, confusion grew in his mind. Was running really their best option? Or was staying to confront whatever secrets lay beneath more of a necessity? Running won't save you, the stranger interjected, cold clarity in his gaze. There are powers at play that you don't even understand. You think you can escape the consequences? The reckoning? A chill swept through Sophia, a small voice inside her screaming that they were out of their depth, trapped in a game whose rules they didn't know. Suddenly, the lights flickered again, as though responding to an unseen hand, and the distant roar outside grew louder, reverberating through the very bones of the building. Is it them? She whispered, heart in her throat. The stranger nodded solemnly. Yes. They are coming for you. The truth hung in the air like a thick fog. Sophia felt the dread envelop her, smothering her senses. Still, she sensed something else, blooming beneath the terror, a flicker of resolve. Would she allow fear to dictate her next move? Or would she find the strength to confront whatever lay ahead? "What do we do?" Miles finally asked, his voice quieter now, but sharp as a knife. The stranger took a step closer, intensity radiating from him. "You find the truth. The past holds the key, and you must unlock it. Only then can you stand a chance." As the last words left his lips, the windows rattled violently, a beast clashing against the glass. Panic erupted within the group, scrambling minds and frightened heartbeats darting in all directions. Sophia grabbed Miles' arm, her mind racing. "How do we find it? Where do we even start?" Before the stranger could answer, the doors banged open, revealing the night cloaked in shadows, and figures appeared, their intentions unreadable. A collective gasp swept through the room. The darkness was no longer lurking, it was at their front door. "Prepare for the reckoning," the stranger shouted, as the first of the intruders stepped inside, revealing a glint of something sinister in their hands. The crowd froze, stunned and wide-eyed, knowing within their hearts that the moment of truth, the confrontation with their past, had finally arrived. But were they ready to face it? Sophia's breath caught in her throat. The time to make a choice was now, yet the stakes were higher than any of them dared to consider. Just as the tension reached its peak and the shadows crept ever closer, the lights flickered one last time and then plunged them into darkness. What would happen in this abyss that suddenly enveloped them all? Would they find their way back to the light or succumb to the darkness that had been waiting? The silence pressed heavily against them, thick and suffocating. Darkness wrapped around the group like a shroud, broken only by the shuffling of feet and muffled whispers of fear. Sophia's heart hammered in her chest, echoing the chaos that lay just beyond that unyielding darkness. "Stay close," Miles whispered, gripping her arm tighter. His voice was strained, a hint of panic threading through the otherwise hushed air. They shifted together, craning their heads to see the intruders better. Shapes flickered against the last remnants of light, their movements rhythmic and deliberately menacing. The stranger's raspy voice cut through the dark. "They come for retribution. They won't stop until they get what they seek." "What do they want?" Another voice, trembling and frightened, came from the back. It was June, the soft-spoken accountant who had joined them only recently. "Your souls, your minds," the stranger replied. "The past is a chain. They are the links, and you are the ones bound to it." The soft sounds of feet creeping closer sent shivers down Sophia's spine. She felt frozen, caught between the urge to fight, to escape, and the weight of uncertainty. Then came a voice like broken glass, a shrill laughter filled the space. "Look at them. So afraid. They thought they could run, but shadows always find their way back home." A slim silhouette stepped into view, illuminated briefly by the emergency exit sign. It was a woman, her face shadowed but her smile too wide, stretching across her features in a way that sent a fresh wave of dread radiating through the crowd. "Enough!" Miles yelled, trying to rally the others. "We won't let you in here. We'll fight." "Fight?" the woman mocked, her voice like silk and steel. "You don't even know what you're fighting against." At that moment, the flickering lights battled for supremacy against the encroaching darkness, creating an eerie strobe effect that cast every terrified face into stark relief. Their dilated pupils shimmered for a second as panic etched deeper across their expressions. "Now!" the stranger cried out. "It's time to confront your truth. None of you will escape unless you face what's hidden." Sophia's voice broke like glass, vivid and desperate. "What do you mean? What truth?" "The truth you buried," he replied, his eyes wild with urgency. "The accident, your choices, they are not just memories. They are the very fabric of your fates." Outside, shadows shifted, the air thickened with a noxious tension. A figure stepped forward from the inky blackness, brandishing a weapon that glinted ominously in the dim light. He approached with purpose, his intentions clear. "Miles!" Sophia screamed, pulling him closer just as the figure lunged toward them. The stranger raised a hand, but it was too late. Chaos erupted around them, bodies colliding, screams filling the air. "Get down!" The order barked from Miles, and they dropped, caught in a moment suspended between fear and resolve. In the maelstrom, there was a flash of recognition. Sophia realized she could see at least for a heartbeat when the lights flickered on again. "This is your last chance." The stranger's voice cracked. "Face it. Or let the darkness consume you." Suddenly, in that brief moment, something snapped inside her. A spark ignited, and before she truly understood what she was doing, she found herself on her feet. "Stop!" she yelled, her voice carrying with an authority she hadn't known she possessed. "We are not afraid of the truth." The room held its breath, suspended in uncertainty. The eyes of the intruders locked onto her, surprise mingling with malice. Would her courage guide them, or would it lead directly to their demise? Just as they were about to charge forward, the lights flickered violently one last time, casting harsh shadows, and everything went black once more. What would happen when the lights came back on? Would they face the reckoning, or would they be swallowed whole by the darkness? The blackness enveloped them, a heavy blanket pressing in on all sides. Seconds stretched into what felt like an eternity, silence thick enough to choke on. Sophia's heart raced, each beat a reminder of her fragility, her uncertainty. What would the darkness reveal about them, about her? Then, a flicker. A brief spark of light cut through the void, illuminating the terror etched on the faces around her. She could see Miles, his eyes wide, reflecting a mixture of fear and desperation. The stranger, was he still there? The light sputtered back to life, casting an unsteady glow across the cramped space. Sophia squinted against the sudden brightness, instinctively seeking the figures that had threatened their safety. They were different now. The smiling woman had vanished, leaving only a lingering sense of dread in her wake. Sophia's grip on Miles tightened. "What happened?" she breathed, searching his face for answers. I don't know," he stammered, his voice barely above a whisper. "Whatever that was, it's gone." But outside, a low murmur broke the stillness, a ripple of anxiety spreading through the crowd. The intruders hadn't retreated. Instead, they now lingered at the periphery like dark shadows waiting for a chance to strike. "Look!" June pointed, her voice shaking. "They're still out there." Sophia turned, every nerve ending screaming with trepidation. Flickering lights cast erratic shadows against the walls, and in those trembling shapes, she glimpsed something horrifying. "Face your truth." A voice echoed, and with it came the ghostly specters of their pasts. Faces flashed through Sophie's mind, strangers, acquaintances, and loved ones, each representing moments of failure, guilt, lost opportunities. It was as if those memories manifested in physical forms, each demanding acknowledgement, each shadowy figure bearing a weight of choice that bore down on their souls. One ghastly figure stepped forward, slack-jawed, its eyes hollow and accusing. It pointed directly at her. "Your lies have brought us here," it hissed, gravelly and harsh. "Are you ready to atone?" Sophia felt the world tilt beneath her, the burden of her own choices pressing like a vice. She had always thought she could escape unscathed, carry on without facing the consequences. "No!" she shouted suddenly, defiant. "You don't own me. I'm not afraid." But doubt crept in as she spoke. Would claiming bravery shield her from the past? Would confronting her demons mean surrendering to them? She looked to Miles, whose expression mirrored her turmoil, a mix of fear and admiration. "Miles," she whispered, her voice trembling, "what if they're right? What if we can't escape what we've done?" "Then we face it together," he said, steel creeping into his tone. "You don't have to bear it alone." The shadows writhed at his words, their whispers rising in rage. Together? How quaint. But what if your bonds bind you to ruin? A loud crash echoed as another figure stumbled against the door, loose boards splintering into the air. The group recoiled, gasping as the door shuddered. There's no way out. June cried, her voice shrill with panic. No. Sophia shouted back. We didn't come this far to be shut in. The walls seemed to close in, the laughter of the dark figures growing louder. The air thickened with a foul sense of inevitability. Face what you hide. Or let it consume you entirely. They shrieked in a haunting chorus. As the tension spiraled out of control, the flickering lights began to falter again. Sophia stood frozen, torn between the truth she feared and the fight for survival. Time felt suspended, a choice loomed before her. Would she confront the shadows of her past now? Or would they pull her under, dragging her into the depths of despair? Tonight was far from over. Secrets were stirring, ready to claw their way out, and Sophia realized she was at the center of it all. The lights faded once more, but not before she caught a glimpse of the woman's triumphant smile returning to haunt her. Was she a specter of hope, or a harbinger of doom? What lay in wait when the lights came back on, and would any of them be left standing to see it? The darkness swallowed them again, plunging Sophia and the others into a chasm of panic. The weight of silence pressed heavily, suffocating. A heartbeat thrummed loudly in her ears, drowning out the whispers of the shadows. Fear spiraled within her, snaking through her chest like a living thing. Sophia. Miles' voice broke through the oppressive quiet. Stay close. It was the last thing she needed to hear. Each flicker of the dying light sent tremors through the room, collapsing her resolve. Her fingers tightened so painfully around Miles' wrist, she feared she'd leave a mark. She could feel his fear radiating off him, a palpable energy that fed her own dread, then light. It burst forth, illuminating their surroundings, but it felt wrong. The soft glow cast stark shadows, revealing twisted forms that danced along the edges of the walls. The murmurs from the crowd beyond became a cacophony, blending terror with confusion. Look! June shouted, her voice piercing through the chaos. They're in here. Sophia turned her gaze. On the fringes of the room, the specters morphed into grotesque replicas of the people they used to be. Old friends, former lovers, and bitter foes now loomed large, each embodiment painted with the shades of betrayal. The sentiment surged in the air: grief, anger, loss. One figure stepped forth, its face an unsettling reflection of herself, distorted, twisted, yet eerily familiar. You thought you'd forgotten us, it sneered, voice dripping with contempt. We are the echoes of your choices. You can't shake us. Sophia's breath caught, realization striking her like a knife. No, I didn't forget. She shouted, desperation clawing at her throat. I accepted them. I moved on. You call this moving on? The figure mocked, advancing. The shadows danced with it, whispering her secrets into the air, each syllable laced with scorn. All those lies you told yourself, are you ready to face them? She looked at Miles, imploring him with her eyes. He was breathing hard, his own fear masking a fierce determination. Face them, Sophia, he urged, his hand squeezing hers. We can take them on together. Together? Echoed the specters, their laughter momentarily solidifying into something monstrous. What a delightful lie. When push comes to shove, who will stand with you when it truly matters? A sickening knot twisted in Sophia's stomach. Would they abandon her? How much longer could they endure this nightmare? Enough! She shouted, the words surging forth, fueled by a sudden rush of courage. You don't get to dictate who I am. I'll face whatever I have to, but you can't keep me shackled. In response, the lights flickered violently, and the figures began to swirl, their forms blurring and shifting, but Sophia held her ground. Whatever the shadows might be, she would not race into obscurity with them. Just as suddenly, a thunderous sound erupted from the door on the far side, a crash, rattling the very core of the structure. The group turned, hearts pounding in unison, eyes wide. Was there more? Were they even ready for what lay beyond? Get to the door! June cried, a newfound urgency in her voice. But before they could react, a blinding flash illuminated the way, highlighting something lurking at the threshold, a larger presence, dark and imposing, contrasted against the violent flicker of light. Sophia's breath hitched. What now? She whispered, dread crawling up her spine. Who or what awaited them just beyond the threshold that hadn't already come for them? The lights sputtered again, flickering in and out, each darkness blurring the line between reality and nightmare. An unspoken question hung in the air: could they withstand one more revelation, one more test of their wills? And from the depths of the shadows, a voice cut through the fog like a knife, calm yet menacing. Welcome to the reckoning. What lay ahead would force them to confront not just their fears but the very fabric of who they thought they were. Would they emerge whole, or would they become mere memories swallowed by the darkness? The door burst open with a grotesque creaking sound, the air filling with cloying darkness that seemed to reach for them like icy fingers. The imposing figure standing in the doorway was now illuminated by the stutter of flickering lights, revealing an amorphous shadow cloaked in heavy black. Sophia's heart raced as the figure took a step forward. The shadows twisted around it like a living cloak, shifting unnaturally, its eyes glinting like sharp stars that pierced through the darkness. What do you want? Miles shouted, stepping in front of Sophia, instinctively shielding her from the oncoming terror. Want? The figure echoed, its voice a chilling whisper mixed with an unsettling laughter. It's not what I want. It's what you all want, but fear to face. Sophia felt a cold sweat trickle down her spine. What do you mean? She managed to ask, her voice trembling. The figure tilted its head, a dark grin forming as it flourished an arm toward the shadows that lingered behind it. You've spent your lives running from your truths. Lies, regrets, they feed the darkness. June stepped forward, her courage flickering like the lights above. We've come to confront them. Ah, the figure laughed softly, but confront? What you mean is hide together. The cruel smile widened. And now you'll all be rewarded. Suddenly, the figures around them began to morph again, shifting seamlessly into painful memories. Faces twisted in agony, mockery written across them as though they were puppets dancing to a dreadful tune. Stop! Sophia shouted, her voice breaking through. You're just trying to break us. Break? The figure mocked, its features blurring again as it stepped closer. I don't need to break you. You've broken yourselves long before I arrived. The realization that emerged from the figure curled around Sophia's mind like a cold serpent. This was not just about her, it was everyone standing there. Each of them had buried their truths, and now they were being confronted by their consequences. Vengeful spirits of the past. Miles saw the fear etched on her face and squeezed her hand tighter. We can beat this. We're not alone. Remember? But the shadows closed in, whispering names and sins. It was like being suffocated by memories, the air heavy with despair. Sophia clenched her jaw, desperate for clarity amid the storm. Why do we have to face this? She begged. We're here now. Can't we just move past it? The figure leaned back, almost recoiling as if offended. Oh, sweet Sophia, moving past is merely a lovely phrase for running away. It took another step forward, and the ground beneath them seemed to tremble. Face your fear before it devours you whole. Just as that dark presence loomed closer, the lights flickered once more, sparking wildly. In that chaotic glow, Sophia spotted a faint silhouette, another figure just beyond the door, shrouded in a blanket of shadows but unmistakably human. Help us! She screamed, hope clawing its way through the dread. In an instant, the room plunged into darkness, swallowing them whole as gasps erupted from her companions. Every light extinguished, and the deafening silence enveloped them like a suffocating shroud, and then, a voice within the darkness, soft yet strong, broke the void. "You're stronger than you know." Sophia's breath hitched. Who was speaking? Would help come, or were they forever lost in their nightmares? As uncertainty wrapped its icy fingers around her heart, she sensed something shift. The struggle was only just beginning. "Prepare yourselves," the shadowy figure taunted from the darkness. "The reckoning has only begun." In that moment, the air thickened with anticipation. Were they ready to fight their pasts, or would they crumble beneath the weight of their own darkness? One question loomed larger than the rest: who would emerge victorious when the echoes of the past demanded tribute? The darkness hung heavy like a thick fog, obscuring hope and threat alike. Silence swallowed their voices, the room a canvas painted with shadows and fear. Miles clutched Sophia's arm as his heart thudded violently. Together, they were standing at the brink of courage and despair, ready to confront the evils they had avoided for far too long. "Listen." A voice erupted from the shadows, delicate yet commanding. "You must find your strength, not just for you, but for each other." It was Casey. Her silhouette emerged, ethereal, trembling with purpose. The room shimmered with uncertainties as the shadows writhed and howled, unwilling to yield. Together, Casey insisted, her voice steadying. "Only by facing the darkness within can we banish the darkness outside." A frail hope flickered in Sophia's heart at Casey's words, igniting the courage buried beneath layers of fear. They needed to unite, to piece together the fragments of their shattered truths. Each shadow lurking around them was but a reminder of their past choices. "We can't be afraid anymore," she whispered, rallying her fragile resolve. "They don't get to control our lives." The shadows recoiled momentarily, startled, as though they could absorb their fears but could not bear the spark of defiance. And in that flicker of strength, they began to pulse, growing ominous again. "Face your truth." The shadowed figure hissed, a mixture of wrath and mirth. "You think your unity will save you? You've evaded it for so long, and now it's time to pay the price." At that moment, the lights flickered back on with a harsh brilliance. The harsh glow illuminated the faces of both the living and the phantoms they had summoned, each a reminder of choices made and paths taken. "Remember why you're here," Miles shouted, stepping forward, his voice like steel. "We will share our burdens together. We'll face the truth head-on." He took Sophia's hands, driving strength into her. The warmth of his grip spread through her, suffusing her with unyielding determination. She turned to the collective faces surrounding them, each reflecting fear, but also a flicker of trust. "We're stronger together. No more running. No more hiding." As one, they stepped toward the darkness, lifting their hands in defiance. The shadows howled as they approached, twisting and writhing as though threatened by the unity forged in the face of fear. "We will no longer bow to what haunts us," Sophia shouted, her voice rising above the chaos as resolve surged within. "We will confront our pasts with courage. We are not alone." In that moment, the darkness roared, shaking the foundations of the room. Shadows blurred as they lunged forward, desperation fueling their movements. But as the intruding presence roared, their collective voices rose like a tidal wave, drowning the despair, pushing back the darkness. The room erupted in a cacophony of words: confessions, apologies, shared grievances, and broken dreams intermingled into a swirling gale of catharsis. Each word brought distance from the shadowy weight, and with every uttered truth, the shadows began to dissolve, screams turning to whispers of remorse. As if tethered to an unseen force, a blinding light surged where darkness once stood, revealing the remnants of broken memories. A moment was suspended, tangible, the acknowledgement of regret, love, hope, and fear mingling together to craft the foundation of their liberation. Then a powerful surge swept through the space, binding them together in understanding. Shining mirrors of themselves reflected off the remnants of darkness. "Stop!" the shadowy figure screeched, but it was clear that power was shifting. The figures known to them, friends, family, dreams lost, stood resolute, refusing to fade. They belonged with them, not as a burden, but as a part of their shared journey. Together, Miles bellowed as they all joined hands, and in that fierce unity, they moved bold, unafraid. The shadows writhed and choked on the light, slinking back as if scorched by the brightness of their collective truths. The cascading waves of illumination flooded the room. And slowly, painfully, the darkness split, echoes of their memories returning to dust. With a final convulsion of light, the last shades of despair swirled and vanished, leaving behind a calm, warm glow blushing through the vast expanse of the office. Sophia sank to her knees, gasping. It was over. She felt the weight lift for the first time in ages. Relief and triumphant laughter erupted within the group, dispelling the stillness. They had faced the darkness head-on and emerged whole, bathed in a new light that promised change. In the radiance, they could feel the warmth of new beginnings. As Miles stepped forward toward her, he smiled. No masks, no shadows, just pure light. "I will learn to smile again," he said softly, an echo vibrating with sincerity. Sophia felt the tide swell behind her. "We all will." With the darkness defeated, they would leave their pasts behind, but they would carry the strength of the truth moving forward together. So, as they prepared to step into the world beyond the office walls, let this moment be a reminder: the timidity of fear is no match for the bravery born from unity, from love, from truth. Each held the power to decide their fate together. And as hope returned to the hearts of those once shackled by shadows, they found not only freedom but the dawn of a future gleaming bright before them. Join this journey. You need to subscribe now, so don't miss the next exclusive stories coming soon. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and let everyone know you're part of the community. Flood the comments section with your reactions, your theories, and how this story impacted you. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this powerful conclusion. Your support matters, and only true fans understand the importance of ensuring our journey continues together.